Hey, beautiful souls. This is a really exciting day. And I'm Aurora Light, and I'm here with my dear friend, Radiant Soul Nicole, who is actually celebrating her birthday today. So, welcome to our party. Nina is going to be hopping on in a little bit, we hope, when she is able to join us. And we just spent the weekend frolicking in the woods, appreciating life and the beautiful weather that we're having where we are. And we're going to talk today about how that vibe, that frequency, that energy of appreciation gets undervalued and overlooked. And it's actually a magical secret sauce to manifesting something new, creating more, expanding, and growing by paradoxically dropping the striving and just opening into the present moment and enjoying it, appreciating it for what it is in a really fully embodied way. Nicole, this is kind of your jam space. So I feel like you're going to have a ton to say on that. But before I do, I get to just rant for a second in like a good way, like a gratitude and appreciation rampage for Nicole, because I already posted about this, but maybe you didn't see the post. Maybe you're just watching this on YouTube and you don't see my Facebook posts. I have to appreciate Nicole very deeply today because we've been friends for over a decade now. And we've had so many life experiences together, whether it be hula hooping, creating retreats together that brought people together and caused some divorces. We have grown our children almost at the same time. So they're growing up together. And now we're co-creating all kinds of things, the playground and the conscious creation certification. So I just have to appreciate her and her essence, her wisdom, her ability to anchor in everything that I do. Like, I could not ask for a better evolutionary partner to be friends with and collaborate with. So happy birthday, Nicole. And I'm just going to let Nina in here too, so she'll join us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, and so much appreciation for you two feeling all your birthday love today. I read your post that you made and I was like, whew, I have to just allow myself to let that all wash over me and really feel it and appreciate it, and not just, read it and be like, thank you, and then go on to the next message that came in. Or I just really wanted to savor it, to feel it, to allow myself to receive it. And I'm so excited to be able to, in this bigger place of receiving this year than I have been before. There's always been a lot of birthday love around, and this year it's so special because I've worked so much on clearing all the blocks to receiving that I'm like basking in it all, and it feels so good. And it's like I don't have this like, oh, I'm not really worthy of this thing going on that I've had in years past. So thank you for your role in that, because all of the support that you've given me as a coach and mentor and friend, of course, has been so instrumental in helping me get to this place where I can really truly receive. So grateful.
So Nina just had to pop on a little bit late. And Nina, we were just going on an appreciation rampage for Nicole because it's her birthday and it's a party. And if anybody is watching this in the replay or live and you've got a story about Nicole or how she's like inspired you or maybe supported you in some way or just made you smile or laugh, whether it's one of her epic Halloween costumes or something profound that she said on a chat like this, let her know in the comments, because I feel like she's in a wonderful space to appreciate it and really receive it like she was saying. So Nina, you probably have some words that you want to share about that too.
So many. Oh my goodness. What first popped into my mind, I don't know what you shared recently, like when you came on just now, because I got some like face oil in my eye and it's like tingly and it was really awkward right before I came on. So anyways, I'm here now. Sorry I was late. So I don't know what stories you shared so far, but what immediately popped into my mind is Nicole galloping around at Astral Harvest during Pumpkin's 7-hour set like quite a few years ago now, and just how much joy you were bringing. And did I say you were a unicorn? I didn't know if I said that part. Yeah, you were galloping around in your unicorn costume, and just like it was like sprinkles of joy wherever you went. It just brought a smile to everyone's faces, and that's, I think it's a really good, really beautiful way to like sum up how you are, how you be in this world. You are a sprinkle of joy and love that people feel and that I feel. And I'm just so grateful for you as a friend, as a soul sister, as a co-creator, the way that you're constantly walking your talk and modeling the way that you are in the world, the way that you share in the conversations that the three of us have, and also out in the world through social media, in circle. You're constantly demonstrating that you are, like I said, walking your talk and really committed to your inner growth and your deepening your love for yourself in such a beautiful, inspiring way. And it's such a gift to create with you and to receive your blessings as we create ceremonies together and events together, and just being able to like bask in the energy that you that you share so freely and so generously.
I am just receiving all of that. Thank you so much. This birthday is the best. Yeah, and I love that you, of course, remembered the Astral Harvest memory, because that is quite epic. And what's so cool about that is I was in super appreciation mode when I was doing that, because so that was back in 2014, and that was my third year of having a dark night of the soul in a row. And whew, it was like that festival was such a turning point and a celebration, and I was just fully celebrating how amazing life was as I was galloping around the dance floor and spreading my spreading my love and appreciation for the moment. I was so present and happy, and I know Pumpkin played some songs that I'd listened to like on repeat when I was in like the darkest days driving to Calgary, and like listened to like a couple of songs on repeat the whole time, because those were my, I don't know, songs that I just needed to listen to over and over and over, and like bawling my, like just completely like ugly crying the whole way, which is like a 3-hour drive. And so then he played that song and I heard it again, and I was like, oh my God, I have come so far. I am so appreciative of this moment that I can look at where I was and where I am and just have this complete and utter celebration of life. And it was so magical. So yeah, I know lots of people remember me spreading my magic during that particular time. And yeah, so it was such a incredible experience. And yeah, I do love to live my life that way and bring that appreciation in and magic in and celebration. And yeah, so yeah, thank you for seeing me.
Thank you for being you. Aurora, you're muted.
I thought I unmuted myself. I have something to expand on that, but first, for everybody watching, I just want you to receive the codes that Nicole is holding in her field right now, which is deeply being open to receiving all of the appreciation and then like luxuriating in it, as opposed to being in resistance, which is we're kind of trained to do, right? People complimenting you and we go like, oh, it was nothing, like, oh yeah, and like actually close down from that. So this is something that she is a master at. So this is why this topic is so perfect for today, and fully circling into this unicorn magic. Most of you know Nicole had a really, rough couple of years with a brain injury, a concussion that took a long time to recover from. And I wanted to say one of my favorite moments of you this year was at Vibes Music Festival, when you were at that point of just being able to claim that you were recovered and no longer suffering from this, and you were in the same unicorn outfit, and you were just on the dance floor dancing, and you could just feel the appreciation that you had for being there, for being healed, for all the work that you had done, for all the people, for the music. And like, you were a whole vibe. If you came by you, everybody was like, ooh, this feels good. And those of us that knew you were also just like moved, because we knew that, 6 months ago, a year ago, you wouldn't have been able to stand there. You wouldn't have been able to go to the festival. So it's just the most profound example of you being in appreciation for all that you are and have done and have been through and are able to do. So
what a full circle moment to have those two kind of significant events kind of bookended by, celebrating at a festival in your unicorn costume.
Yes, because we cannot take life too seriously. And when we're in the good times, we have to celebrate the good times. And when we're in the bad times and the hard times, we still have to try to celebrate as much as we can after we feel the feelings, all that stuff. But yeah, Vibes also was super special and amazing this year, because honestly, even like up until July, and this festival was in August, I'm like, I don't even know in July if I could handle going to it. And I would go, and I was there, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try hula hooping at the main stage when there's lights and things. I'm like, oh my god, I can do this. This is amazing. Because hula hooping I used to do, and then the concussion just was like, that was like way too much for my brain. And being able to try it out and do it and actually be in the bright lights and the loud music and hula hoop all at the same time was just so incredible. So yeah, those moments just bring me into this deep state of presence, of awareness of what's actually happening, and full appreciation. Because if you've never had an experience where your health and your ability to live is, your able body is taken away, it is quite the shift to all of a sudden have it back again. It was so magical, and just I can't even begin to express. But like you said, it was like the whole vibe. There's nothing I could say that could say how I was feeling in those moments. It was just pure appreciation.
your smile said it all. I wish I had a picture of some of those moments, because Nicole can attest to it. You were just like grinning. You're just like your smile could not get any bigger. It looked like your cheeks hurt. So I think that's one of the most beautiful things about you. I'm sorry, my cat found something to play with on the ground. So if there's noise, that is what's happening. It sounds like floor hockey. So you have taken the contrast in your life, everything that has happened, that has been something that has contracted your field, made it more difficult, basically a challenge that some might call a huge, just a problem, right? Like something that really sucked really hard. And you've turned those things into gifts. You've turned them into these opportunities to grow, to learn, to appreciate, because of the contrast. So I think that's one of the things that this earthly existence gives us the most, is the opportunity to have contrast, and to, when we can alchemize the issue into an opportunity to deeply appreciate something, especially if it's taken away for a time, it makes life so much sweeter. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, both of you, about that clarity through contrast, and the sweetening and deepening of presence and appreciation through it.
Well, had I just kept living my life, I wouldn't have known how special what I had was, because I would have just, it's so easy to take it for granted. So since I've been better and healed, I've like actually been able to do housework and stuff again. And I was cleaning a couple weeks ago and vacuuming, and like vacuumed the whole house, and I wasn't even like before, if I wanted to do even like unloading the dishes and putting the dishes away, I would have to like plan rest time before and rest time after that, and know that if I was having a really bad day, that might put me in bed like all day, because was too much activity for me, too much for my brain. I did so much other cleaning. I can't remember. I cleaned like the whole house and vacuumed and did all sorts of things, and I was doing it without even thinking about it. And then I'm like, oh wow, it's so easy to take this for granted, that you can just do things without having to think about it. And I, have that, oh, what am I trying to say? That anchor, I guess, to like be like, oh hey, I should really appreciate this moment, because it's actually a privilege to be able to clean my house and do all the things that I can do, and wake up early and play with my daughter, and like whatever else I want to do, to just be able to do things without having to think about it, is so magical. And my heart goes out to people that are living with stuff that is, maybe not as easily curable as a concussion. Not that a concussion was easily curable. It took me over 2 years to cure it. Oh, hold on. My doggies just wanted to say hello to somebody outside. Give me 1 second. And yeah, so I truly believe without that contrast, I wouldn't be able to drop into that level of appreciation that I have been, because of that. Now Kitty's coming to say hi. Yeah, Nina, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I love how all the animals are just having a party today. They're just wanting to be a part of the Zoom. I don't have an animal, otherwise it would probably be up in here right now. I've got crystals. I've got beings here. Party. Yes, so I have a similar experience, different ailment, but similar. It's so interesting how Nicole and I have similar healing journeys around covering and being able to return back to things like hooping after several years away. I had an arm injury, and just this summer I was able to return to that. And I'm just reflecting what you were sharing about, just such a deepened appreciation for the simple things. Like this summer I mowed my own lawn. I didn't have to hire somebody, and that was like super like milestone for me, because it hurts so much to push a mower before. And yeah, just like so grateful for the simple little things, down to like this trillion different processes that my body carries out. Like today I was just like tuning into my body and giving it some gratitude just for, wow, like my belly, oh my goodness, there's my stomach inside, and my stomach digests all the food that I eat, and then becomes me, and it gives me energy, and it gives me nourishment, nutrition. And yeah, just like the little things, it helps me to focus more on this like an infinite intelligence of the body. When the body doesn't do what I want it to do, or when it hasn't done what, I'll reframe that, when the body hasn't done what I wanted it to do in the past, and I was frustrated, and I felt like there was times of feeling hopeless and defeated, then to have the contrast of like, oh my goodness, healing happened. Like that was a thing that I manifested and visualized and called in so much. And yet there were times where I was wondering if ever I would be able to have functionality of my arm in, a full functionality way again. And it was so, just a celebration of this human vessel, and to have the experience of not having the full functionality to moving back towards it gives me so much hope in healing other things, but also so much, like you were saying, Nicole, so much compassion for people who struggle with things that, like chronic illnesses, or anybody who's going through any challenge right now. Just so much compassion, because there's definitely times when we might feel that, is there hope? Like, is this gonna get better? and yeah, heart going out, and also just like, yeah, so many feels around a lot of this, so much appreciation for the path, but also that it brought me to where I am now, and otherwise I would have just stayed on that path that I was on before. And so I have a lot of appreciation for the whole journey, in hindsight, because it was just, now I can see that it was what I was meant to experience, to make different shifts, changes, and transitions to be where I am now.
I totally agree. I have so much appreciation for everything, because I wouldn't have gotten all the lessons. I wouldn't have learned all the things. I wouldn't have become more compassionate with myself. And that's what I really needed, was to learn how to not put myself up to those like those standards that I wouldn't expect anybody else to live at, and to really just be more gentle, more soft, more compassionate for me, to appreciate all that I did do, and like focus on like, okay, well, you could do this, or like, you did do this thing. Celebrate what you've done. Don't focus on what you can't do anymore. Just accept where you're at, and really giving myself a break, and not being shifting. I guess really it's shifting from that inner critic to inner coach, and that was such a powerful experience for me, and allowed me to land more into my heart and be more present with what was. And if any triggers come up, I'm like, oh, okay, I get this, because of course it makes sense, because of like this trauma thing happened to me, or whatever. Like, I'm just having a normal response based on the experiences that I had when I was younger, and I wasn't able to process it now. Like, nothing's wrong. It's really given me the perspective to see that nothing's wrong, and I'm not doing anything wrong, and to be more, hold myself in this like really motherly reparenting love space, that I can allow myself to just be where I'm at, and not expect myself to be anywhere else.
I'm just breathing that in. And I also want to give you guys, oh, she's moving now, but she was like laying in my arms, just like getting super belly rubs and appreciating the vibes. I love that you brought that up, because I feel like acceptance is a prerequisite to being able to appreciate something, right? Like, so if we're unable to accept that a thing it's an isness, and not making it a wrongness, like you were saying, but it is how it is without resisting it, then and only then can we come into this frequency of appreciation. And accepting what is kind of a cornerstone to softening the nervous system, which places us in a space that will allow us not only to receive and just to be able to access our intuition and all of the tools that we have when we're not in fight or flight. So super, super key. And that resistant energy, I think, is one of the things that hinders creation energy, right? Because they're two almost opposing forces. Creation is wanting to grow and expand. So creating, manifesting, all of that juicy stuff that humans absolutely love to do is impacted when we are in resistance. That like closes us down, and we're fighting with what is. We've got our defenses up, and we can't grow and resist at the same time, I don't think, at least not in the same area, So what we get to do is utilize those frequencies of acceptance and appreciation to do that softening, which then opens us up to the receiving energy, which allows us to be that vibrational match for the creation that we want to come through from the challenges, the obstacles, right? And turn them into opportunities. So I honestly think that being able to bring this frequency into your field as often as possible, even when things have been rough, or especially when things have been rough, it shifts the energy, and it can actually allow us to have that upward spiral that we always talk about. It's like the very stepping stones. So sometimes when we're wanting to create, when we're wanting to grow, we like to skip steps, like foundational steps, and we'll want to get to like the joy, the bliss, the expansion that just feels so free and infinite. And those are amazing frequencies, but we can't get from the contracted energy all the way up there in one breath, in one day. Well, I mean, sometimes you can in one day, but if you've really been struggling, if there's been a lot of health challenges, especially, or other things going on, it's like the acceptance and appreciation are the stepping stones that you have to take on that spiral upwards. And you were speaking into the inner critic to inner coach, which comes from belief repatterning. And one of my favorite things from belief repatterning to support the appreciation frequency and energy is just looking back at our accomplishments. And it's kind of what we were talking about today. You were talking about your recovery, right? Both of you, your recoveries, that's an accomplishment because you never gave up, right? And the appreciation of that and the celebration of that actually puts into your brain, right into the file folder at the front, almost like the cache file, that when you set your mind to it and you set your heart to it and you put the work in and you do the intention and all of that, you actually can get stuff done. Right? So instead of going, man, I'm not where I want, I don't have what I want, I'm not at that place that I can see myself going, you're rather going, I can do things, I've already done things, right? And we're always so forward looking as a society that sometimes we forget to do the acknowledgements, the appreciation of everywhere we've been and everything that we've already done. And so it's funny, but looking backwards to appreciate all of that stuff actually gives you forward momentum. I'd love maybe actually to jump to Nina for you to kind of talk about that and how it actually supports that creation and manifestation energy in that almost paradoxical way.
Yeah, what was coming to me as you were describing it is that it's fuel. It's that extra like motivation to spark, like, oh, I've done this before, I can do it again. I have some like hip pain right now, and I'm like, okay, well, my arm healed, so I have hope that my hip will heal. I feel more hopeful than I once did, because that old arm pain that was like 6-7 years long, and there were, like I said, there were times where I was like, is this ever going to go away? And then now I'm like, well, I healed that thing, so what's, anything's possible now. It gives me more forward momentum, like you were saying, and it's like that fuel. And then also on a like mental or like subconscious level, there's something called the reticular activator, and it is a filter in our brain that helps us to, it basically, because we have so much input of sensations and thoughts and all of these things going on around us at any given time, this is a filter that helps to determine what is worthy or worthwhile of letting in. And it's kind of programmed based on what's you're putting your focus on, and what it's it's deeming important, what you've recently focused on. And so when we remember the accomplishments that we've when we appreciate the accomplishments and the wins that we've recently gained, or even just throughout our whole lifetime, when we really focus on like, wow, this is what's going right, rather than focusing on, oh, I didn't do this whole part of my to-do list. What did you focus? Can you focus on what you did right today? And I've actually been doing that for the last while, where I'll, at the end of each day, I'll write down my wins. And maybe sometimes there's more on the list, sometimes there's less on the list. But each day I'm able to look at it and see like, oh, wow, I did well today. And I also put my self-care on there as well, because there's days where I maybe do less in the productive sense, where, I'm less productive in this, the way the society would deem productivity, but self-care is super productive. So putting my self-care on the accomplishments lists, get a good like check mark on there. You can give yourself a pat on the back. You can give yourself a high five in the mirror. It is then what you're telling your brain is you're going, oh, I did this. This was awesome. And your brain's going to go, oh, I want to find more of those things to get that like acknowledgement, get that self yeah, that's that pleasure from doing that self-acknowledgement. And you're becoming your own cheerleader when we do that. When like Nicole said, your own inner coach. And that's been a huge thing for me, because many years ago, I very commonly looked outside of myself for approval and just acknowledgement. And what what this process has taught me over many years, as I've focused more on giving myself that approval and that acknowledgement, it's now become more second nature. Of course, it's still a conscious process that I do practice, but it's easier for that that mind, that part of our mind to pick up on those pieces of like, oh, appreciation. Oh, we can, we're feeling appreciation, we're feeling gratitude for this. Let's find more opportunities to receive appreciation and receive more gratitude.
I love that that's your practice, Nina. I've been doing that in my journal too, to write. I give myself gold stars. So I say every day, I'm giving myself gold stars today for, and then I actually like write stars as bullet points and give myself gold stars. And yeah, you're right. Like some days it's like, I did something that was for a self-care activity, or I did this little thing, but it's also really awesome because I look back I haven't been doing this lately because I haven't been, I made my own journal this year, which is awesome, but I also don't have a printer that works consistently all of the time. So I haven't been printing out the pages, but when all the pages are printed out, and I do this every day and every week, it's so amazing. I have my daily review, my daily intention setting, my daily review, then my weekly intention setting and review, and then my monthly intention setting and review. And I can look back like over the week, I'm like, oh wow, I had a really great week, because so much stuff happens. I forget sometimes like all the things I did. Then I look back over the month, I'm like, wow, I did so much more than I actually thought that I did, and accomplished so much more. I know at the end of September, the beginning of October, I was like, I am really tired. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Am I sick? Oh no, what's happening? And then I reviewed my September and I'm like, this is the biggest month I've had in like years, literally, because of the concussion. Like, I should give myself a little break, because I had like a week, my husband was away for a week that month. We had the soul embodiment summit, and there was like a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't even remember all the other things, but I'm like, wow, I did so much, but I forgot about all of it somehow. And so if we don't have that practice of looking back and seeing what we did, it can really be harder to find those things, and makes it so much easier when you see them to be able to recognize where you've come. And then, of course, since it's my birthday, I did that yesterday of looking back of like my past year of like all the things I created and all the things that I did. And I feel like I've really built such a strong foundation in my life of health and wealth and building business and all of these things. It's been so magical. And now it's like, now that I'm looking forward, I can jump forward into what is it that I want to co-create and call in and be in this next year of my life. And then I'll do that again in a couple months when the solstice comes, and I'll do it for the year. So I'm basically like always doing these reviews and looking forward all throughout the year. And I just find it so supportive. So I know some people do have a hard time looking back, but I have really made it a practice, and maybe I should buy myself a printer that works so that I can actually have my stuff printed out and do this all the time.
What I'm hearing is you're at some point going to make a journal page for like people in the playground at the very least, that looks like these gold stars, because that's such an amazing practice. I actually literally have hundreds of gold stars still. And so you're inspiring me to be able to put down my wins, because I used to, when I was teaching in schools, I'd sometimes give kids literal gold stars, and now they just cover artwork. So I really love that. And I think for a lot of us, this is a reprogramming, a paradigm shift, because we were taught not to boast, right? If you accomplish something, it's like, okay, that's good, but don't get a big head about it. And like, don't share it with people and just keep it on the DL. And then what's the next thing? And we're not taught to like stop and celebrate and appreciate, or at least this is the general culture right? We don't want to make people jealous. We don't want to make people uncomfortable. So one of the biggest shifts for me, I think, as an adult was unlearning some of that and finding communities where celebration and appreciation and like actually being okay with owning our accomplishments, um, where that was welcomed instead of being like, whoa, that is too much. That changed everything for me. The belief repatterning community, even the hoop community, where you'd be like, oh my gosh, look what I learned. And people would be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Right. Instead of like, who does she think she is? Right. And I love that we have this in our Soul Sisters group chat, right? Like on WhatsApp, obviously, Nicole and Nina and I talk quite frequently, and it's a safe space for us to celebrate, and we don't have to hold back on that. And that, I feel, really allows us to deepen our appreciation for ourselves, and also honestly do it for each other too, which adds another dimension and layer to it and just feels so good. So I love that the newer generations that were being taught to appreciate and celebrate themselves without censorship, or at least there's a lot more available for that. You cannot have some ice cream right now though.
Add to that, I want to share about how beneficial it is, like you were saying, to have this conversation between the three of us where we share our accomplishments and we share our celebrations. And we also do that in the playground. I love that in our Facebook group, people will post what they're celebrating or what they're shifting through or what they're calling out for support for. So I love that as well. And that's picking up and growing even more. But in our little triad chat, when one of us comes on in this celebratory, one of you comes on in this celebratory, I want to celebrate with you and for you and like cheer you on. And it also in turn gives me more permission to lean into celebrating myself, because that's a muscle I'm still growing. And so when we are lighting the way for others, it inspires others, it allows others to step into that. We're mirroring that, we're holding that space for one another, because if we're, so we are like those who we surround ourselves with, there's these mirror neurons in our brain. We are, constantly reflecting back and forth between one another, whoever we're around. So if we're around people that are like actively celebrating, actively, claiming their wins and savoring their wins and holding that frequency, then it also allows those around us to soak into that vibe and that frequency, because when someone else is, holding that vibe, it is inviting those around us to come up into that level, into that frequency. Just like Nicole galloping around on your unicorn. There's that invitation. And yes, there is sometimes for me the mental dialogue of like, oh, I don't want to like shine too bright or create like jealousy, or just like give people create a situation where people are like, oh, I don't have that opportunity and I'm sad about that. And I'm navigating that and like checking in. And when I do share, I trust that when I do feel guided to share, I'm leaning into the trust that those who are meant to hear it, those who are meant to receive it, are going to. And if someone is actually triggered into jealousy, that's also an opportunity. Whenever we feel jealousy, it's also an opportunity to notice like, can I shift that? Can that be something I turn into celebration? Because that can help, because when we see something that someone else has that we want, instead of it being jealousy, when we talked about this a couple of illuminations ago, we can or did we talk about this in the summit? one of the two, we can transform that into like, oh, I can have that. That's a living example. This person's life, this person's success, this person's, creations. This is a living example of what I can call in and what I can create in my life. It's not a, oh, they have it, therefore I can't have it. And then going into the lack, there's this opportunity to go, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me, because there's this quantum universe that we live in where we can call in anything that we desire. And it's about, coming into that alignment and calling it in, and also has to do with clearing out the old that's no longer supporting us. So, and just wanting to like bring it all full circle, that's like so much of what you've modeled and what you've done over these last several years, and especially in this last year, Nicole, to like really come into this place where you've manifested this physical healing of your brain, and then on so many other things, on so many other levels.
I'm gonna jump here to just jump in here. I was jumping so hard, I forgot to say that other letter, those two letters. It's a frequency that people are at. It's a lens of perception that they're wearing about whether it turns into jealousy or inspiration, right? Envy or appreciation for what that person is holding. And tell me if this makes sense to you, but I feel like if somebody is in scarcity, then it's going to be jealousy or envy, because they think because that person has it that they can't, because there's not enough to go around. But when you are able to lift the perspective to one of abundance, right? Of it's not a zero-sum game, but in fact, there's enough for all of us. Then you can take that into the appreciation and go, wow, this person has done something, and therefore I can do it too. That example that you were talking about, which I think is so, so, so important, right? We don't need gurus or special teachers up on pedestals or anything anymore. It's just this beautiful opportunity to see what someone has done, especially if they're a pioneer or a leader and not a lot of people have done it yet. You can just go, wow, it's possible because they did it, right? They broke through that barrier. And that means that there is now an energetic availability for us to do it as well, and probably with more ease, because the people that go first have to usually work harder for something, and then it gets easier as it's passed down into the collective field of possibility. Kind of like, did you guys know that the 4-minute mile was considered impossible in like the 16, 17, even early 1800s? And then as soon as somebody broke it, there were like 6 or 7 more people that year, because suddenly they believed it was possible. It was no longer a belief system holding them back about it. So I think it's kind of the same thing here. If Nicole was able to heal her concussion, and Nina was able to heal her arm. And actually this year I healed a decade-long hip injury that was driving me crazy, that I spent so much time and thousands of dollars on. I healed that as well. And so we can stand here and in our fields, we go, you know what, healing things that feel impossible, that can happen, right? It is possible. So that gives that energy of hope and possibility. And then you can share the codes with it. And sometimes the codes are more powerful than the words of like how we did it. So that's why I always invite people to feel into the field of the person that they're witnessing and receive on the energetic and the body level, because it's often beyond the mind's comprehension. The mind will just get in your way if you're trying to figure it out, as opposed to like understanding it with your entire being.
I love that you said that about the 4-minute mile, because as you were saying this, I was literally just about to make that example. And I was just watching a module in Manifestation Babe Academy last night about that. For the second time, I was watching this module and I was like, so cool that, people that like go forth first, the pioneers, they pave the way to show what is possible. And then it basically shows our consciousness, the rest of us, our consciousness, oh, this is doable. Okay, it's not impossible. And then we raise up to the next level of a achievement or accomplishment that's possible for humanity, because I'm sure we all think it's, like, I'm sure most people think it's possible to fly, but there's also some people that are holding that in their field, and all of the magic and that we are not perceiving with our human senses right now, but there's people that are holding that in their field, and there's constant evolution in the different like capabilities that humans are stepping into. And it's infinite.
I love that little ending. And it's infinite, yes, because it is infinite. There's infinite possibilities. And I used to live in a world where I didn't think that was true. And I don't think when I felt jealousy in the past, it was not necessarily because I didn't think there was some for me. Then I would just go into the story of, well, I'm not good enough. They're better than me. That's why they have that. And then it would just be this like totally disempowering game. So it's still similar, but it was a little bit different. And once I learned to actually like love myself and trust myself and realize that I am good enough, I realized that we all are worthy of receiving, I guess, to bring that all full circle. We are all worthy of fully receiving everything, and we are able to receive whatever it is we desire if we believe that it can be so. And I do have to acknowledge that I do have a little bit of privilege, so it does make it a little bit easier, and there's maybe like less momentum that I needed to work through to get to the place. I was starting off maybe at a higher level than people that don't have as much privilege as I do. So I think that's a super important thing to acknowledge and recognize. But when I was also, not able-bodied, it wasn't as easy for me then either. So but just being able to shift your beliefs so that you can be open to something being different than what you have already is such a huge gift.
I appreciate you bringing up the privilege aspect, because there's a bigger hill to climb for a lot of people, and it really depends on what area you're looking into. There are going to be some limitations that are pretty much absolute at this time, right? If you currently are an amputee, walking on your actual feet is not something that we can currently do. But there's also, infinite potential, like Nina was saying, and given infinite time, as Jason Estes would like to say, we'll get there, basically, because we first clear out the belief system of no human can regrow a limb. But we have that belief right now, but could we think that with the right technology or stimulating the proper, I don't know what it might be, like using stem cell technology or like nanobots, who knows, with a little bit more technological advancing, maybe we could do that, right? And maybe that could happen in our freaking lifetime. So I really believe that the belief systems have to come first, right? That Charlie is a beautiful example of somebody who has this really open belief system, and she believes that treats should be very freely available because that's just how the world should be, and we're navigating this right now. So I am going to just mute myself, but you know what I mean? It's like the what we think is a limiting factor might not be, because we have all of that infinite potential and probability, and things are accelerating faster than they ever have before. So it would not surprise me if in this lifetime humans are regrowing limbs, walking through walls, and flying.
Woohoo, blast up, let's go. And also to look back at the amount of technological advancements that have taken place in my lifetime, in our lifetimes, in addition to like the amount that's happened in my mom's lifetime, my grandma's, and like the beginning of this, the beginning of the 1900s, like just over 120 years ago, like, wow, there's been so much, shifts and advancements, and it hasn't been a slow like incline. It's been like whoosh, like it's been very rapid. And so and also, let's just say too, those are all manifestations of someone's mind first. They visualized it first, they had it in their mind first. Like, this computer or a device that you're watching this on was in someone's imagination before it became a reality. Someone 50 years ago might look at, like, if they came through on a time machine and they looked at this right now, they would be tripped out 50 or 100 years ago, right? Like, it would just be so unbelievable. But these are just everyday norms now for us. So yeah, I think that anything is possible. And like you said, given the enough time and creation power, like we're all desiring, that's kind of what we're here to do. We're here to create, we're here to expand. And that's something that is essential, that for the universe to expansion is the purpose. The universe needs to continue to expand in order to be. So yeah, very fascinating to conceive what things might be created by the end of our lifetimes.
I love too the thought of like, once you really get playing with it, I'm doing some like money magic stuff right now. And once you really like can understand that money, for example, is the same as currency and energy, and it's like all the same as all the other abundance that I've called into my life, then I get to just play with it and the possibilities are endless. And then we can do that with anything. Like, it's all just energy, and all just like a big game that we get to play and expand into. So much fun when you can have like that fun with it, I guess. Joanna's saying, I love the idea of teleportation to be a possibility. That would be a freaking amazing. Yes, and thank you also for all the happy birthday wishes, everybody. I really appreciate them.
We're going to have an amazing playground meetup when we have the whole teleportation thing down. Stay tuned.
I cannot wait for that time. And for those people that perhaps don't follow Jason Estes, I've done a couple really amazing chats with him that you can find on YouTube. He said something last week that was really great about teleportation, so I'll just share it here, and flying. And he was basically saying that there are people on the planet right now who they've got that in their field, and they would be ready to go that fast and to teleport, to fly, to do all of those amazing things. But there is a collective field of agreement about what humans are able to accomplish currently, and flying and all of that is not there yet, because there's not enough people that believe it's possible. So when we do this work and we shift out of the limited mindset of being stuck where we are and into that, well, there are infinite possibilities given enough, like time and practice and all of that, then if enough people start believing it to be possible, then the collective agreement shifts into, maybe this is something we could do. And as soon as there's enough of that, then people are going to start to pop off. They're going to be flying. So, as you are opening your own mind and heart to the possibilities of the magic that is inherent in us, the more that'll happen. And the more that you hold it in your field, the more it ripples out into the collective, right? And the more you speak about the infinite possibilities of creation, the more that it will give people permission to explore that. So this is why these kinds of conversations are super important. We are actually rippling out those possible explorations into the field, like across the globe, just by having a Zoom chat that goes on YouTube and Facebook.
I just want to say it's so cool that you mentioned that. I didn't know about that chat with Jason saying that about flying. And then when I said flying as an example, I was like, was that a little bit far-fetched? But you totally confirmed that it was not at all. So that's beautiful. And like you said, holding it as the example, holding it in our field. And I think there's this, I don't know if you said this, but there's collective agreements of where we're just like, this is the box that we're in as humanity. This is what we're capable of. This is what we're not capable of. But it's kind of like, how can we just like crack the lid and like, expand a little bit and yeah, like press against those edges and it's kind of also reminding me of Peter Pan and all of the the fairy tales where they talk about, oh, you just have to believe and then it's possible. It's like, those are literal codes. That's literally reality. In terms of, some of the things that, we can create, we can manifest. I manifested healing in my body through visualization and through belief. Where would I be if I wouldn't have had that belief and that that belief that healing was possible, right? So there's something there in those shows. There's definitely wisdom and codes in those for us. And sometimes we just need a little magic fairy dust as well.
First off, I just need to say you manifested it through your visualization and belief, but also the aligned action. That's the other thing, is that you would get the download to go and try out a certain physio or a certain exercise, chiropractor, whatever, energy healer, and then you would do that instead of going, oh no, that's not going to work, right? The aligned action is so important. But also, yes, like, there's a whole thing going around and has been for many years that TV gonna rot your brain, right? And people would be like, I'm the most spiritual one because I don't watch TV. And a lot of people would write it off to pursue certain things. And actually what comes through, and Nicole and I were just talking about this yesterday, especially in like cartoons and science fiction and action movies, like the Marvel movies and DC movies with superheroes, is a lot of encoding of possibility. And a lot of shows are seeding humans with this idea that things are possible. You can even look at how the narrative over the last, say, 50 to 100 years has changed regarding, I don't know, aliens. It used to be that people were like, well, that's insane. You can't believe in little green men, right? Like that was not okay to believe in. And now people are like, yeah, obviously there's going to be extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings, and our governments are probably in contact with them already, and that already hit the news, and it's just assumed. And the way we got from one place to another was all of the encoding in shows going like, isn't this kind of obvious that it has to be there? And it just expands into the collective. So yeah, there's a lot of magic coming through in a lot of different ways that are seeding humans with all of the possible things that we are able to do and create. Love it.
Yeah, I said yesterday, I'm like, I never was interested in sci-fi or action stuff growing up. And so I missed out on so much stuff. And now I watch it. I'm like, oh my God, there is so many codes. And it's like so interesting to see all the different, just to see it all and see how there is so many messages in it. And I'm like, oh, no wonder I wasn't meant to wake up earlier. And I feel like if I had watched all of that, I would have been open to the possibility of that all being real. And because I didn't watch any of that stuff, I like, there's so much that I missed out on and didn't know. So it's so fun to watch all this stuff now with new eyes and see and have it be like fun, like, oh, what is this, like what messages are hidden in here. And I used to be at one point like, oh, I can't watch TV because it's like, trying to sell fear-based and trying to keep me down and all of that stuff. And now it's more fun, and I can kind of discern, I suppose, maybe better if I do feel like something has messaging like that versus what might be more expanding and consciousness expanding.
that is key. Discernment. Let us take a moment to appreciate discernment as a tool that we have available, because what's going to be received for you even is going to be different than how I will receive it and Nina will receive it, because we all process information differently. So it's great to get ideas from people, but certain things are not for everybody. Right. And it's just fascinating. Last night I watched Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, and if you haven't already seen this movie, so many codes, so many downloads. This is amazing. It's on Disney Plus right now, and very pertinent to our current situation. I would highly recommend it. Plus Ryan Reynolds. Like, do I have to say any more?
That one's been on my list and I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. And right now I'm obsessed with Lucifer, so working my way through that and also enjoying Tom Ellis as I work my way through that. But yeah, codes in that one as well, and just so many different all the Marvel movies that I've watched. I'm like, whoa, how did I miss all this? I've also never watched Star Wars or Star Trek or anything like that, and I feel like I've missed out so much stuff. But I only have so many hours to watch things, so I'll get there eventually.
It's funny. I dated two people. One was in high school and one was just a couple of years ago. These two people were obsessed with Star Wars. And so I did watch Star Wars, but back in high school when I watched it versus when I watched it a couple of years ago, I think I was in a totally different mindset. And I'm curious to watch it now, even just to have a different perspective, because we're constantly changing and our perspectives are constantly changing the way that we take in information. So yeah, back in high school, I was like, I don't care about this at all. And then in a couple of years ago, I was like, yeah, this is actually really like, I can, I'm vibing with this. So yeah, so interesting how it was exposed to me so many times.
Now that you know that the Force is a real thing and that we can actually do it, there's a really great movie that was not well received by the regular movie watching communities, also with Ryan Reynolds, and it was Green Lantern. And the superpower, like, first off, it's full of aliens and alien powers and stuff like that. And one of the councils of aliens, when I saw it, I was like, these are the guys I speak with, or some of the people that I speak with, and it looked almost identical. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like, people are receiving codes and sharing them very freely in movies, but his superpower is willpower. Like, literally, he's like, the conscious intention is what creates the power. And I was like, this is kind of sharing the secret to creation and life. And people were like, what a horrible movie. Ryan Reynolds actually apologized for it. And I'm like, okay, people just weren't ready. I feel like it just wasn't time. So if you wrote that one off because it got crappy ratings, like, the codes in that one are insane. I want to rewatch it.
Ooh, that's exciting. I haven't seen it, but it's funny because I could imagine critics being like, oh, it's not a cool enough superpower. Like, it's not enough bells and whistles. But it's literal and also so relevant. So I have a cute story about the Force. So our good friend Jade, it's her birthday on Wednesday. Woo, shout out to Jade. Her son is obsessed with Star Wars, like watches the video games and the movies constantly, all of it, all the time. Super obsessed with the Force, as you could imagine. And so I was over once and he was like, can you tell me if it moved? He was like pretending to use the Force. He's like, did the high chair move? And he was like super like focusing super hard. And we're like, oh, maybe a little bit, might have shaken. And then we're like, oh, you know what? Let's show him a pendulum. So we actually showed him a pendulum and we're like, ask it a question. Ask it, is my name Kai? Yes. Like, if it's doing a circle, it's going to be meaning yes. If it's going to be doing a line, it's going to be meaning no. Like, we just showed him kind of like the basics of pendulum, and he's like, oh my God, I'm moving it with my mind. We're like, yeah, it's the Force. But then I was like, and also it's kind of special that you know this, because not everybody believes in the force, but because you believe in the force, you're making this happen. So we have to kind of like let him know, let him in on this little secret that we all know exists. But if he goes to school, you know, people might like be like, what is this guy talking about? So we wanted to kind of just be like, hey, this is something kind of special that blew his mind, and it was super fun. And yeah, I haven't asked him or asked her in a while how he's doing with that, but it was, yeah, like sharing these messages, sharing this yeah, these codes with the younger generation, and just how like they're sponges and they're soaking it up, and they're ready, they're star seeds, they're just like, you know, picking it up so quickly, and they're so open.
I loved sneaking all of that kind of training and teaching into the work that I did as an artist in residence, especially when I was teaching the circus arts and the hula hoop stuff. And the kids would say, if I was using a levitation wand or doing tricks with my hula hoop, go like, you know, you're using the force. And then I'd go and I'd teach them how, and I'd be like, yeah, you do have to use the force. Now you're also using your foot, or you're also, yes, there is, you know, a levitation wand's like this wand, and then there's fishing line attached. So you can't really see it unless you're looking really closely. There is an attachment there. We need it for now. But what you have to do is use the force to control it, and you're controlling it with your mind, body, spirit connection. And I was able to share that with so many thousands of kids. Or the move where you pick up your hoop by stepping on it if it's on the ground, and it like levitates, and you can like actually like pretend that you're using the force. You teach kids like, yeah, like it's not actually going to work if you don't put your mind to it and you don't pull it up and call it. So it was just so much fun to train them into believing that in order to be magical, you need a quote from Dr. Strange. If anybody hasn't seen that, also full of codes, go watch Dr. Strange. To be magical, a patron of the mystic arts, you need to study and you need to practice. It's not like you just flip on your magic. You literally have to do both of those things in order to be able to be magical. And that is the greatest life lesson I think that has come out of Marvel movies, right? So there is so much that people are being prepared for right now, and the next couple of years are going to be so insane. And we're going to look back at this time, this whole pandemic time, I believe in a few years with great appreciation for everything that is going to shift because of it, right? So the master alchemy and the magic comes into, can you find the moments to appreciate with gratitude and presence now, before you're looking in hindsight, but can you bring it into the now?
And to bring this all in for whoever's watching, if you're watching live or on the replay, let's practice a little bit of appreciation right now and type in the comments, what are you appreciative of in this moment? And I'm gonna check in with my heart and feel what I'm appreciative for. Actually, I'm just giving a heart transmission, apparently. I am appreciative for both of my dear soul sisters, Aurora and Nina. I'm appreciative for having these new beliefs that are so supportive and giving me this solid foundation to create what I want to see in life. And this whole time I've just been thinking of this quick story. When I was 22, I went to Thailand for the first time, and that was like a big deal. I finished going to college, and I'd been working for a little bit, and we went for a 6-week vacation, and it was amazing. And there was a yoga teacher from Australia that I actually had taken my first live yoga class from, and I was talking to her afterwards, and she was talking about how she moved from Australia and lives in Thailand and teaches yoga, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I could never do that. And she asked why, and that blew my mind. Nobody had ever questioned any of my beliefs before in my life. I'm like, I don't know why. I don't know why I think that, but the fact that I think it means that I can't. But so then that, like, I think that one question actually like set off the beginnings of my spiritual journey of starting to question why. And there's all these little pieces along the way, but it's so I'm appreciative for her for asking that question, that person that I have no idea what she's doing in the world right now, but so grateful that she asked me that single question.
Well, I am so appreciative to her for asking that question too, because I mean, obviously the trickle effect, the butterfly effect of us being here and now is amazing. And it took all of my willpower to not interrupt you when you were speaking, go like, oh, I know, I appreciate you. I do. I appreciate Nicole and Nina and just this amazing community that we have online, especially because of the restrictions. It's harder to get together in person, but I love technology so much. I am so deeply appreciative of the internet because it means that we can connect and we're not, disempowered by geography anymore. It used to be that we were so isolated and just wherever you happen to land, well, that's where you were going to basically live unless you really put a lot of energy into traveling and moving. And now we can sit in our homes and still connect. So I need to just really be grateful for the internet, for Facebook, which I know has tons of problems, but it is still an amazing way of connecting with beautiful beings, for Zoom, for YouTube, for all of the people that have created it, who believed that it was possible when a lot of people are like, that's crazy talk, right? Those dreams that started that actually have allowed us to be able to have these spaces to connect virtually as well as in person. Oh gosh, I'm so grateful for all of it and for everyone. Like, it's just, my heart is so expansive when I think into it.
I'm loving Joanna, like, wait, as you're sharing your appreciation for our beautiful community, Joanna is here sharing all of the wonderful things that she's grateful for. I will just share some of these: her office, the candle on her desk, the cat sleeping close to her, conversation, for the feeling that she has around her tribe, her body, this beautiful energy we're in now. And technology is our baby steps to teleportation and telepathy, which is so profound. And I couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing, Joanna. It's so funny, even just, this is just a random side note, but on the note of like technology being so, it's like this symbol of our universal consciousness and how we can all be connected, but also ads and the way that the algorithm works. That's literally how manifestation works. And it's kind of hilarious because people are like, oh, the algorithm, or oh, my phone's listening to me because I Google searched for such and such and now I'm getting ads for it. And I'm like, that's manifestation. That's literally how it works. But it's cool to like have this lived, our, like, I guess, physicalized experience of what it can look like. And I also wanted to share something. It's funny when you're asking, like, what is it that we're appreciative for in this moment? I'm hearing right now, my neighbor, he's doing something in his garden with a leaf blower, and part of me is like, oh, I don't want to go off mute because I don't want it to be loud. But then it reminded me of this super beautiful experience that I had. It was last week or the week before, and I had woken up early and I realized the sun was rising. And I went out, I was in my house coat. I went out onto the step on the front lawn and I took a picture, and I was just like breathing in the magical sun. Did I say sunset? I meant sunrise. You picked that up. And it was these fluffy, beautiful, like cotton candy clouds. And I was soaking this in. And then later that day, my neighbor Ben, who I'm hearing outside right now, he pokes over the fence and was like, I really loved seeing you enjoy the sunrise this morning. And I was like, oh, thank you. And then I hadn't checked the mail that day, but the next day I checked the mail and I got a note. I got a handwritten card, and just talking about how he appreciated me seeing, he appreciated seeing me really appreciate the sunrise. And him and his wife Pearl are just like the sweetest elderly couple next door, and I'm so blessed to have them as neighbors. But it just is a reminder to me that when we like let our, let's just say, freak flag fly, like when we're in just open to be in full appreciation and bliss and gratitude out in the open, you know, like I do this on the trail when I'm walking in nature. I obviously do this in front of my house during sunrise. Like if we're just, and I love to do this on the, like I did this on the dance floor at Vibes Festival this summer, where I was just like breathing it in, just feeling that vibe. And then later on, someone thanked me for just being in that space. You know, we're inspiring people when we are going into that bliss and that appreciation, and that it's affirmation that it's that beingness. We're not like, we can share it with people vocally, we can share on Facebook, we can be in that, you know, intentionally, but we can also just be in our beingness, where we're just standing in front of our house, just breathing in the beauty of life, and people will see that whether you know it or not.
I am appreciating that story, and man, that is so perfect. That what a beautiful place to end. I am obviously out of my child's patience and time right now, so I'm gonna go and do some parenting. So we will connect with you again next week with another chat. It was so divine to connect with all of you. Just one more chance to wish Nicole a happy birthday, and just sending you all so much love and appreciation to each one of you, just right from like my fingers to my toes. All of our love to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you for watching, everyone. Blessings. Love you, Nicole. Happy birthday.